Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your favorite Dr. Che. I am going to continue with video series on the book a non-selective survival versus hyper-selective mating. We have in the last video discussed the issues related to pain. Though that is a very extensive topic, it is very important, and I want to underline this. In case when you have doubt, as a summary, is pain pressure applied on a person useful or not? For example, a person seems sarcastic, laughs at you during, for example, an interrogation, obtention of information, intend to change a person's attitude towards non-harming or killing. And you do not know, knowing that that person behaves that way in such an arrogant way, how to proceed, what to do. I have to tell you how it looks like from the standpoint of mind sciences and behavior. Not many persons will do such in such detail, and what entitles me to that is that I was tortured. And I don't want to go in detail with that, that was a long time ago. What it entitles me to do is to inform you, ladies and gentlemen, about two things. First of all, it does have survival benefits. Also, in many cases of persons who are, like I, compelled to be not only transparent but also have no loyalty towards country and choose such through rational analysis of premises. The answer is that never pain administered consciously as opposed to a result of ignorance will yield more than resentment. First, when it comes to all hazing, I have been given information on hazing done to Marines in the United States. When it comes to hazing, ladies and gentlemen, that is done with a purpose of development of mind disintegration, but in a belief that the applied to a person torture and mind disintegration that is accompanied by forgetting name, etc., that it has purpose of making the person tougher, and then removal of all loyalty to family and to other organizations, and provision when person is in despair of basic needs that I have observed also in a woman journalist online. I forgot her name, I will research that later. That went through training for firemen. That ends with tears and happiness because a person obtained a fireman helmet as a result after being frozen and being tortured, trapped in some tunnel, led through it through headphones, all as an organized exercise. This is different than the complete mind disintegration, in which a person exceeds in own tolerance to pain the threshold of wanting to be alive, because pain is non-compatible with life, such as burning witches, for instance, that is used in medical schools. I don't know which ones, I don't know how many persons went through it, but it is used in especially mind sciences and in many other medical schools. The difference is that the provision, for example, a person is desperate, hungry, beaten up in Marines, and then a person from Marines, from the same group who did so, said, well, now you passed, you are considered tough, you know who to count on, and now in goodness will provide you, the proverbial helmet and provide you with a uniform, provide you with protection, and you will know that you can rely on us. And that is when you are then in the same situation, you will know that you can count on yourself and on persons who did so, as opposed to the enemies. Which, what the drawbacks are, ladies and gentlemen, is the same as in marriage, in which a person holds as proof versus others, sometimes strangers, that this spouse pursued in person, which is a direct result of provoked sexual rejection. So a person provoked, and when the other pursued sexually was harmed and rejected, which results in gloating, in harm and pain of the other. This is similar situation. It results in a non-conscious period of adjustment, in which a person does have loyalty towards persons who inflicted that pain, but later on that ends up in remembering, the same as in the case of spouse, that the person rejoices visibly in harm or pursues death or the harm of self, and that ends in waiting for the right moment, playing along, following orders, playing along in non-sincere loyalty, in complacency, in fear. Fear never. Do not listen to that book by Lao Tzu, The Art of War, because from the standpoint of behavior, it is a complete and utter false. Person will comply and will follow orders, will care for others. However, remembered the torture and pursuit of harm that cannot be faked. It's similar to desire. It cannot be faked that the other person or group pursued death or torture, visible pain in a recruit or a student, which is like a recruit. And so the moment, or spouse as well, the moment that is remembered, the evidence is in memory, clear as day, there is waiting and planning, which is normal. In many mental health offices, persons who never went in their innocence went through similar situation. I do not, like I said, it is purposeless. I do not want you ever to consider that good. It has to be reformed and changed. So I will be, and I am collecting not only volunteers that want to write petitions, but also persons who will pursue actively, especially from management, change of that hazing or resign. The same as the journalist after passing the exam she left, regardless of the results. And so the moment that person restored memory, the person, not in because the person does not love or the person faked, the forced loyalty towards a unit or that spouse will become history. And so the moment that the person is offered a condition or the way out, the person will leave and will have to betray, retire or leave or betray. And that is why it is ineffective. Now, when it comes to a total disintegration, so torture was delegated to usually persons who do not know in naivety that it is torture, means used as cures or treatments or pursuit, or for instance public order, like stunning guns. And persons were tortured to the point past a tolerance to in pain that exceeds later on a compatibility with life. So person begs to be killed, and that is given then as mercy, as the temporary relief, and continues, you see. And this is done usually by a delegating, so person cannot establish, we cannot establish who did so, and it is as if blaming offered as an explanation that it is non-faulty and you are at fault, you have done something wrong to the superior or somebody else, and that's why it is being done to you. And so that causes later on a pursuit of um, the situations in which loyalty is always, first of all, based on the best possible outcome for self, and that has no sentiment for family, and it is in proportions to lack of responses from others when person tried to ask for help and did not obtain that help, including asked to be killed and did not obtain that, and also in proportions of being denied in facing, for instance, authorities, because those are organizations often that do that as hazing or training, or cures, or mind conditioning. That's it. And so, when offered these, persons did not respond and resulted faulty. And so that eradicates for good loyalty towards family as well as towards sexual partners. So that is often present in Zen training. Some of those Zen trainings, I'm not saying many, but some of them, especially from the Chinese tradition, are similar, meaning persons were simply forced to, as opposed to doing like the training muscle, that you train when you're tired, you rest. Like I walk, I got tired, now I rest. Tomorrow when my legs are not painful, well, I can walk some more. I can see, okay, my legs are now stronger, right? Well, that's normal. What is abnormal is when somebody imposes that based, for instance, on averages, and so even though you are in pain, you cannot stop, and that brings them that resentment. And so in Zen also, in some of those monasteries, imposing that training creates distance to sexuality, and that is abnormal. But it is present in military recruits, in police, in medical students, fellows and residents, later on in attendings. I don't know, in my experience, because I was interested and I wanted to pursue mind sciences because of personal motivation, persons from a mind and from psychiatric and psychological departments usually go through psychological torture, which is combination of physical violence and also subliminal violence, which means the psychological torture is a little bit more of similar to what is done to persons that work in special operations or assassins. And so that is supposedly to later on to be able to diagnose, you see. But the problem with that is that it creates first concern for juniors, and the same is with the Zen training. And so in this video, I want you to know that if you have doubt, which is what I have started with, if pressure would bring effect, ask yourself, will you provide to that person freedom from pain and safety in a stable way afterwards, similar to witness protection program? Because if the answer is no, and you are tricking a person, then provision of information to you, knowing, so depending on person's experience, will always be questionable, and all of vital signs in lie detectors will be questionable. If you exceed or hit a trigger in a person who was tortured or hazed, that is not training. Torture or hazing is not training. Okay, let's agree on that. Then that person will tell you whatever you want you to believe to avoid pain. That's it. I'm not talking about death. Avoid pain. The person in disregard to all family members, which is different than sociopathy. It's similar, but it's different. You see, a person knowing what pain is will give away everything to be free from pain. So when you are in doubt, ask yourself, was person exposed to pain? Was person also ever in situation in which all of family bonds and sexual relationships resulted inferior to a person who offered death or freedom from pain? Genuine concern from that, because that person then follows different rules also in relationships. Sexuality plays the secondary role, whereas in persons who never experience that, it plays a primary role. loyalty as such then is not possible based on sexuality, as in the first animal world, provision of food, etc. And so if in doubt, ask yourself, will that bring an manipulation to be free of pain out of fear of or possibility because you exceeded it already, you don't know, or not? If not, then you may be able to obtain something through pressure. If some pressure applied to a person, if so, you will not be able to, and all of that is called is false confessions. Thank you.